The Championship just never fails to disappoint, does it? Coming up in today's video, we have got a lot to talk about. Leeds United have gone up as champions. It's been a long time coming, but congratulations to all the Leeds fans who have been watching the channel for the past few years. We'll talk about that when we get into the Leeds section of the video. We've also had more twists and turns in the race for the top two. COWLEY has been sacked by Huddersfield, and going into the final game week, no side has yet been relegated, so there's going to be fireworks on Wednesday night. So in today's video, we'll be going through all this weekend's action. I'll have a video coming out tomorrow for my final Championship score predictions for how I see Wednesday night going. And before we do hop into anything, I will include your guys' score predictions on screen now. So if any of you did get any of your scorelines correct, then fair play, because it was a very unpredictable one this weekend. I got one of my predictions right, that being the Derby against Leeds match. It was a weekend that was just a bit all over the place, wasn't it? So if you do go to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. But without any further ado, let's get into talking about these games. And so starting things out with Friday night's game, which saw Huddersfield beating West Brom by 2-1, going to all but secure their place in the Championship for next season. And then the fallout from this one, we've seen COWLEY being sacked by Huddersfield, West Brom somehow getting a second chance after Brentford lost this weekend. Like I say, the Championship just never fails to disappoint. It was Huddersfield who took the lead after just 4 minutes, a Bakuna free kick which was swung in. It was a bit of an awkward one for Sam Johnson because it did bounce right in front of him, but the keeper should be doing better there, and Willock manages to scramble it in to make it 1-0. West Brom equalised just before half time. If the AR was in the Championship though, that goal might not have stood. And then Smith Rowe goes ahead and wraps it up for Huddersfield late on, where West Brom there was a lot of nervous energy for this one, you could tell. I mean, I said in my video on Friday that West Brom need to pick up 6 points to be promoted, and you know, I wasn't to know that Brentford would bottle it as well this weekend, but West Brom are now 3 points away from the Premier League, and I mean, I don't think West Brom fans could believe their eyes when they saw the Brentford result on Saturday. But in terms of Huddersfield and the fallout from them sacking COWLEY, I want to get Huddersfield fans' reactions in the comments down below to this one. Now, there's obviously a lot more than what meets the eye for this sacking. I think that there's been speculation that he was speaking with another club, and that's what's led into this decision. Bristol City, the club being talked about at the moment. Carlos Colbron, who's currently at Leeds United, the first team coach of the under-23, has been heavily linked with the Huddersfield job. So Huddersfield fans, let me know in the comments down below, what was your reaction to this one and who would you like to see coming in? And in terms of West Brom, could you believe your eyes when you saw the Brentford result? Because I thought they'd gone ahead and blown it after losing this one, I really did. Then next up we had Charlton drawing 2-2 with Wigan, a last minute equaliser from Charlton which could turn out to be really decisive come the last game week of the season. Now, the problem that the EFL have got at the moment is this point deduction that's been forced on Wigan. Wigan have put the appeal in, so come the last day of this season, we don't know if that appeal is going to be successful or not. So we're going to be getting into a situation where the 3 sides in the bottom 3 don't actually know if they've been relegated yet, because we're still waiting on confirmation of Wigan's point deduction. In terms of Wigan, it would be a bit of a travesty really if they were to go down, for how well they played since the turn of the year, the amount of points they've accumulated. With Charlton equalising in the last minute as well, if they are to get that 12-point deduction, survival is no longer in their hands. They need to win at Fulham on the last game week, and they need results to go their way. And they almost had it in their own hands as well. Jamal Lowe opened the scoring after 9 minutes. Charlton then equalised with a really nice goal for themselves, but we can get back in front before half-time. Anthony Robinson linking up really well with Kieran Dowell, and then in the last minute, Macaulay Bong pops up with that equaliser, which, like I say, could be absolutely massive for Charlton's season. And like I say, with that last minute goal, we now see it going down to the last game week. And then against all odds, we saw Stoke beating Brentford by 1-0, meaning that Brentford's promotion is no longer in their hands. They only needed a point for this one to take it into the final game week and having it in their own hands. But fair play to Stoke. Since O'Neill's come in, they've had one of the best home records in the Championship, I think the 4th best. And it was a brilliant dogged defensive performance. The goal coming from a Sam Clucas effort, which could only be parried by David Raya straight into the path of Lee Gregory, who then got that tap in. Now, the first goal was always going to be very important for this one, you know. Should Brentford have scored early, we could have seen a repeat of the game that Stoke had against Leeds, where the floodgates just opened after Leeds got that first goal. But it was just a frustrating one to watch from a Brentford perspective, wasn't it? Because they had their chances here and there, but it just wasn't quite happening for them. And after a flawless run over the last 8 or so matches, it's the nature of the Championship for this sort of thing to happen, especially after West Brom gifted them the opportunity this weekend. It's going to be some final day, isn't it? In terms of Stoke, fair play to the job that O'Neill's done there, you know, to galvanise his squad and secure their safety with the game to go. Fair play to him. There's hope for next season, I'd say. Blackburn against Reading was one of the few matches this weekend which didn't have anything on it, but turned out to be an absolute cracker. Blackburn winning by 4-3. Again, very much based on momentum. Both sides had different periods where they were on top. It was Blackburn who started as the stronger of the two sides. Ben Brereton with a nice finish to make it 1 after just 3 minutes. Adam Armstrong then making it 2 after 6 minutes. Nice link up between him and Joe Rodwell, who looked quite lively for Rovers in this one. He scored the 3rd, but Reading got back into it soon after. John Swift scoring a fantastic free kick. Speaking of of John Swift, rumours heavily linking him with a move to Sheffield United at the moment for a fee of around about 3.5 million. Reading fans, let me know down below what you made of that one. I'll have another transfer rumour video coming out this week where we'll talk about that one in a little bit more detail, but great free kick nonetheless. From 3-1 down, Reading then managed to get back into it, making it 3-3 with goals coming from Baldock and Yaku Mete. But then in the 87th minute, it is Sam Gallagher who pops up at the far post to make it 4-3 to Blackburn, giving them all 3 points. For a neutral, it was a great game of football. Both teams played some nice football at times, but Blackburn definitely made it hard for themselves given the situation they got themselves into. Fulham against Sheffield Wednesday was also a bit of a mad game as well. Fulham 5, Wednesday 3. It was a little bit like a Sunday League game in this one, at least the defending was at certain times. Fulham took the lead after just 11 minutes. Cabana with the finish. He came up with a couple of nice moments in this one. The free kick he scored in the second half really nicely, taking that one under the wall. Mitrovic also heavily involved. He bagged 2 goals. Fulham found themselves 3-0 up at half time, and Wednesday had a bit of a resurgence, to be fair to them. Going forward, they had their moments of quality. Nuhiu from the penalty spot, he grabbed another later on, and Murphy as well. But really, and what's been the downfall of Wednesday all season has been their defensive shoddiness at times. It really was schoolboy at times. Bobby Reed's finish was very nice. That wrapped up all the points for Fulham, and then Harrison Reed also got 2 bookable offences and then was sent off, so he'll miss the last game of the season. And amazingly, going into the last game week, Fulham still have the chance, albeit a very slim chance, of automatic promotion. They are relying on quite a few results. For Sheffield Wednesday, they're still in limbo about this points deduction come the end of the season. I think it would be a bit ridiculous to give them a points deduction now with 1 game to go, or even worse, after the season's been concluded, and then say to them, yeah, you know what, we're actually going to punish you at this time. Why these decisions haven't been made sooner is a bit of a mystery. Obviously, there's always the possibility that they could start next season on minus points. Up and down the league at the moment with the EFL, it's all a bit of a mess. Then to the big game at the bottom this weekend, that saw Luton just about scraping past Hull 1-0. Luwala with the goal in the second half. For the first half, there wasn't really much quality in this one, but from the second half, you can see by the match stats there, it was Luton who were the side, who were pressing on, had more of the chances. And if anyone was going to go on and win this game, it probably was going to be Luton. It was a great moment of quality as well from Luwala. Gets the ball outside the box, drives forward to the box, then takes it on his left foot actually, gets quite a bit of power behind it and steers it past Long. Now, the result is very damning for Hull, because for them to stay up now, they need to beat Cardiff on the final day, who still have it all to play for, with them wanting to secure that 6th spot. As well as that, they need a fair few results to go their way. With Luton and their survival, the pitch is a bit more complicated, because they could survive and lose on the last day, but equally to that, they could win on the last day and still get relegated. It's all a bit mental at the moment with how things worked out in terms of teams getting points deductions, goal difference, and teams going up against one each other. It's going to be a bit of a hectic final day, but all Luton can do is win and hope that results go their way now. By winning this one, they have got themselves into a good opportunity going into the final day, and they take on the Blackburn side, who look good going forward this weekend, but ultimately don't have anything to play for, so it's going to be a really interesting final day. For Hull, it's going to look tough. I don't think we've seen a bigger capitulation over the last few years in the Championship. I mean, Hull were flirting with the playoffs before January, and now they find themselves bottom of the table. And then we saw Cardiff beating Middlesbrough by 3-1. Cardiff continue to be impressive and look to all but secure their place in the top 6. They just need a point going into the last game week to go ahead and do that and fend off local rival Swansea. Now, it was a good professional performance from them. They took the lead after 4 minutes, had some good moments on the break as well. Mendes-Liang and Murphy linking up really well. The first goal coming from Murphy on the break, the second one coming from those wingers linking up. Middlesbrough did get a goal back through a Sombolonga, really well taken free kick actually, and then they had a man sent off, Johnny Howson, in the later stages for 2 bookable offences. For Middlesbrough, it's a bit of a weird picture and survival at the moment, because should Wigan's 12-point deduction be enforced, then technically they're already safe, but should that be overturned, then they do need something at the final game week if results go against them. Cardiff in the playoffs though, they can be a really awkward side to go up against, and the playoff picture in general, each side has their different strengths and weaknesses. If we take it for the table that we've got at the moment, it would be Cardiff going up against Brentford. It's an interesting encounter. It's 2 different styles going up against each other. The reverse fixture earlier on this season at Cardiff ended as a 2-2 draw. It was a really interesting game actually, and with how unpredictable this league is, you never really know. So Cardiff, they're going well at the moment. Then we had Northend beating Birmingham by 2-0. Now Birmingham find themselves in the same position as Borough at the moment. They're on 50 points and technically they're safe, but should Wigan's point deduction not be enforced and they are successful with their appeal, then they do still need something from the final day if results don't go their way. From Birmingham though, it was a bit of a poor performance really, given that they weren't technically safe going into this one. I'd expect a little bit more of a fight from this one, but they just didn't really look too bothered really. The first half, there wasn't all too much in it. I thought the Preston had the better of it though. We should have had a penalty in my view, Jude Bellingham for a foul on Josh Harrop. DJ sent Stockley through for a decent chance, but he couldn't get that one on target. But eventually, just before half time, Patrick Bauer did get us in front. Harley Dean on him, should be doing a little bit better from that situation, but a Paul Gallagher assist, nice finish from Bauer makes it 1. And then it got a little bit more lively, I thought, in the second half. Gordon had a fantastic chance to get Birmingham back into it, a smashing effort, but Declan Rudd made an unbelievable reflex save to keep it out. He made another save shortly after that as well, and Birmingham did start to press a little bit more, but eventually Preston got back into this one. The flow of the game sort of shifted towards the end of it, and Preston were a lot more on top, and then eventually we got the second goal, which I thought we deserved. Brad Potts with a very nice finish for this one, a goal that he's definitely deserved since the restart. And that was all 3 points for North End. So ultimately I thought we played some decent football in this one. Ryan Ledson, once again, I was very impressed with him. He completed more successful passes than anyone else on the pitch for this one, 89. He dictated the tempo of the play really well, and I think he needs more game time next season. I think we got a player on our hands there. Not someone who I'd necessarily say is even a replacement for Ben Pearson, because I actually think that they're fairly different. I think Ryan Ledson's a bit more box to box than Pearson. Every time he had the ball at his feet, he was always looking for that forward pass, and I think that's something we've been lacking in our last few matches. We've been a bit too negative in midfield. So overall for North End, it was a nice way for us to finish our season at deep. For Birmingham, not the best. And then we have QPR ending Millwall's playoff hopes as they beat them by 4-3. And if you look at the match stats there, QPR could have had more goals in this one. We saw shades of the old QPR in this one. Since the restart, QPR have been very inconsistent, not scoring as many goals. I know they've had players that injured like Hugo, Asai Samuel and that transfer. We'll talk about that in the video to come. They've been heavily linked with Kiefer Moore as well. But in this one, it was a lot more dynamic. They were opening up those little pockets of space. Eze was a bit more on it in this one. I don't think he's been the best since the restart, but he grabbed the goal in this one. And Millwall, I don't know if it was the pressure getting to them or something like that, but it was very uncharacteristic of them, this performance, to give away as many chances as they did. They were very sloppy at the back for this one. It was in the second half really when the goals just exploded out of nowhere. QPR found themselves 1-0 up at half time, and then after that the floodgates opened. Goal scorers for QPR after that being Ryan Manning, Eze and Todd Kane. Ryan Manning, who always loves a goal from outside the box, doesn't he? But overall, much better from QPR in this one. They go into the final day against West Brom, where, I mean, Brentford will be hoping QPR get something from that game, which makes it all the more interesting. For Millwall, though, like I said, that does put an end to their playoff hopes, which is disappointing, you know, going into the final day that they've got nothing to play for. But under Gary Rowett, since the start of the season, they've come a hell of a long way, and going into next season, there is a lot of promise with that squad. Swansea against Bristol City ends up being a decent game, only the one goal in it, which separated the two sides. Conor Gallagher with the initial shot, which came off the post, and then Roberts following it in to make it 1. Now, Bristol City had the golden opportunity to get back into it in the second half, but Jeju could only hit the post from the penalty spot. Now, Bristol City fans, I'd be interested to know from you guys, what do you make of the speculation linking you to Denny Cowley? Obviously, we spoke about his departure from Huddersfield before, but would you take him at Bristol City? There's been a couple of names that have been floated about recently. For Swansea, the result does see them still going into the final game week with something to play for. They're 3 points off the top 6. They are relying on Hull picking up all 3 points at Cardiff, and I mean, if there's one side that you don't want to be relying on at the moment, it probably is Hull, isn't it, with the form they're in? But, you know, crazy things have happened in the Championship. They could also catch Nottingham Forest, although there would need to be quite a swing of goal difference. There's 5 goals separating them on that at the moment. So all Swansea can do from here on in is go into that last game against Reading and hope for the best, really. Pick up all 3 points and then see what happens, because we all know the chaotic nature of the Championship. You never know, do you? And then we get to Sunday's games, and we have to talk about this Leeds United squad. They were professional in this one. They beat Derby by 3-1, and a year is a long time in football, isn't it? We went from last year, obviously, all the drama between these two sides, and then this time around we had Derby giving Leeds the guard of honour. Now, Leeds didn't actually have to kick a ball this weekend to be crowned champions and to get promoted. West Brom dropping points saw Leeds promoted, and then Brentford dropping points saw them crowned as champions, but nonetheless, it was still the ever professional performance from them in this one. There wasn't a hangover or anything like that. The first half maybe lacked a bit of intensity, but Leeds had made some changes for this one, brought a couple of the youngsters in. Chris Martin got the first goal, but it only took them a couple of minutes to get back into it. Pablo Hernandez at the second time of asking with a lovely finish. Shackleton's goal was fantastic, beautifully weighted pass from Roberts. The Derby defensive line was a bit all over the place for that one. It wasn't great. And obviously the Matt Clark own goal summed things up really for Derby in this one. Nice ball whipped in from Ilyaski, and Clark made a bit of a hash out of it. But you can't take anything away from this Leeds squad. They have been absolutely excellent all season, and for Bielsa as well, I think we could all tell that when Bielsa arrived at Leeds, something special was happening, and I don't think there's one player in that Leeds squad who Bielsa hasn't got 110% out of. There's not been this massive sort of overhaul of the squad there either. You know, the core group of players that he's worked with were there before he arrived, and yes, they've added, you know, bits of quality here and there. That's always needed for a promotion push. But the way he's coached this side to success, the philosophy that they're playing with, the intensity, the creativity, there's just a whole bunch of superlatives that you could rack off about this Leeds squad. The fundamentals are that over the course of this season, they have been the best side in the league, and they've more than gone on to deserve this promotion. And, you know, there's been some great celebrations that I've seen from Leeds fans on Twitter and social media and that sort of thing. I'm sure that's going to continue. Next week, I'm going to be doing the Championship season review, where I go over my thoughts on every Championship club and what I've made of them over the years, and we'll go into Leeds in a little bit more detail on that, but love them or hate them, you can't take away from some of the great football they played this year. And then to finish things off with the Barnsley match, which takes things into the final day of the season. Barnsley beating Forest in the last moments of this one. There was absolute scenes at full time with the manager running onto the pitch after this one. It was absolutely crazy. But for Nottingham Forest, they've lost momentum at a key point in the season since the restart, really. It's now 5 games that they're without a win, and if you look at the form of everyone else in the top 6 at the moment, everyone else is pretty consistently rolling out the wins apart from Forest at this point in time, which obviously going into the playoffs isn't great in terms of momentum. It also means that they only need a point from this one to go ahead and secure their place in the playoffs, but now they go into the final game week with that not yet being confirmed, although it would be fairly unlikely with Swansea to catch them, given that Forest do have the superior goal difference. If Swansea do put quite a few goals past Reading, you never know. They now also find themselves in a situation where Cardiff could leapfrog them into 5th as well, which would see Forest playing either, you know, whoever finishes 3rd out of Brentford and West Brom for that one. Forest would just be wishing that added time didn't exist, really. The amount of goals they conceded late on this season is off the charts, but fair play for Barnsley. The endeavour's still there, very much there with this squad, and since Struber's come in, actually, he's had such a positive impact on them, both at the back and with the results they've been picking up. And you can't say it's what they didn't deserve in this one. I mean, look at the stats for this game. Barnsley were more than warranting 3 points in this one with the opportunities they had. They were unlucky not to take the lead in several moments before, really. But like I say, with that result, it does take things to the last day. They still have it all to do. They've got a very tricky game up against Brentford, but this is the Championship, so who knows. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video of the Championship roundup. So get your thoughts in the comments down below for what you made of this weekend and how you see the final day unfolding. Like I say, I will have coming out tomorrow my final Championship score predictions, but at the moment, who are you fancying for that second spot? Who's going to sneak into the playoffs and who is the bottom 3? In terms of my goal of the weekend, I really like John Swift's free kick this weekend. Brilliant goal against Blackburn. That could be his parting gift from Reading. In terms of my result of the weekend then, I'm going to give it to Barnsley for keeping their hopes of survival alive with that last minute winner against Nottingham Forest, but there were some other great results this weekend. But like I say, guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like. It is always massively appreciated, and make sure to subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. We've got a lot coming up over these next few weeks. We've got the conclusion of the season, then we get into the playoffs, and then we've got the bonkers nature of the transfer window as well, so stay tuned, guys. But apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.